Man, Sixers had us scared there for a second, but they came through in the end with the clutch loss, losing in overtime to the Houston Rockets behind a fantastic performance, though, from Quentin Grimes. We'll get to him. Sixers lose 144-137. The tank helmets are back. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, baby. The luck of the Irish came through.
Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens, Bree, we're here. And it's never ordinary. Even when we were talking about, it's a 17-point spread for the Rockets, Kyle's like, yeah, I might even take something a little bit over that. Well, the Sixers had other ideas throughout the entire game, man. Just the way that they played. This one came down to the end. Quentin Grimes was fantastic. The team is playing really hard, even shorthanded with just 9 players tonight. But second night of a back-to-back, they beat Dallas on Sunday afternoon. They come back tonight against the Houston Rockets, and they give them everything they had in this one, Kyle, where they forced the extra session in overtime. And unfortunately for the Sixers, the shots didn't fall there at the end. A few other players came alive.
Unfortunately
for the
Sixers, players.
Players.
Fortunately for the Sixers organization,
this worked out well for them.
It's the ideal type of loss, right? Where you have the featured player who is a guy that we increasingly are thinking and saying he's going to have to be a big part of the future, right? He's going to get a nice contract in the offseason. Quentin Grimes is just hooping right now. Like, no other way to put it. Guy is playing his butt off at the moment. Frankly, we're going to start having conversations about whether they should find a way to shut him down, convince him and his agent, like, hey, we'll get you the payday, but please stop making it so close. But unbelievable performance from him. Honestly, the thing I was thinking watching the first half of that game, driven by unsustainable shooting as it may have been, is like, where has this team been when they've had, real NBA talent, when they've had Maxey and George, and they had their veterans, Kelly Oubre, they had Drummond, they had Caleb Martin, they had all these guys throughout the... And I get, like, we've gotten to a point where we've seen those guys' body of work and we can say, yeah, those guys are names, but they're not helpful. But the fact that you could throw these 5 guys on the floor and that 9-man rotation, many of whom have never played together, right? These are guys that are being brought in on hardship 10 days and are just, coming in and out of the door. And all of a sudden they're a coherent rotation. For that group to hang 78 points on the Rockets in a single half. Yeah. Is just mind-boggling, and I felt good for those. I feel bad for them that they're the ones who had to deal with that loss, because I felt so good for that group in the first half when they hit 15 threes, balls moving, snapping, flying around the floor. Everybody's playing unselfishly. It was I said in my recap tonight, it was like a everybody eats game in baseball, or just like, the guys are in the dugout making all kinds of... They're out there smiling. They're having fun. They're whooping and hollering. And then the Rockets decided they cared about this game about midway through the third quarter. Ime Udoka, to his tremendous credit, looked at Sengun mailing it in and said, hit the bench, buddy, and then brought him back at the perfect time to end the game. So on basically all fronts, it was a satisfying viewing experience. It's good for our macro interests with the draft pick and the tanking. Does not get better than that for a Sixers game at the end of this specific season.
Kyle and I have been working together for a while now. Like, we spent some time at Liberty Ballers together. We did a podcast together for a while there. And now obviously we have PHLY. Covered games together for a long time. This is the first time in my life I have ever seen him root for an overtime period. He was so pumped up at the end of regulation. That has never happened before. No, this game really did have everything. Like, it was a career performance from Quentin Grimes, and a guy that you were about to commit a lot of money to, a guy who you look at as a fixture of your organization now, a real steal at the trade deadline. It had hustle from a lot of players who are trying to make a name for themselves and establish themselves as legitimate, NBA, at least rostered players. And you got a loss, a very improbable loss too, for them to go to the line like that, down 3 and convert that intentional miss, it just doesn't happen all that often. The Sixers' lack of a big man, to Kyle's point, Sengun had played like 17 minutes over the first basically entire 4 quarters of the game. They had a real size advantage that they weren't able to really press the way that you thought they would. It finally came back to bite the Sixers at the exact perfect time. And you're sitting here and you can't even really be mad at the Sixers in any real way. They get the loss. They get the standings in the ping pong ball tournament, and everybody really hustled. And I know they gave up a lot of points, and Houston had that huge third quarter. Their effort for the most part was there. I think you saw them really like the short rotation, the 8-9 man rotation, and the back-to-back, I think, finally caught up to them a little bit on both ends. Both their shots started coming up short, but also on defensively. But you can't, it was just one where you watched and you said, outside of maybe 1 or 2 players, everyone tried hard, they were focused, they were moving the ball, they were making decent decisions, and they just didn't have enough. It was perfect.
They've been fun, these last 2 games, to watch them, the way that they've played. No stars out there, no all-stars, no anything like that. They are piecemealing this team together right now. And the one thing that stood out to me is how many plays are actually being called by the head coach and the coaching staff to actually run these plays with. When you look at 2 new players in that have been a 2-way and a 10-day contract, then you get a 10-day contract that's been here for just, 3 days in total. He's playing minutes also. How many plays are they actually running? Not a lot, or just basic sets to get them some stuff going. And what they're doing is the ball is moving. They're sharing the rock. They're overpassing at times, but they're feeling good about playing basketball. And the things that they're doing, they're executing with those plays. They're trusting one another. They're just out there hooping. That's exactly what they're doing right now. They are just out there hooping. They don't know each other outside of a few of them that have been together all season, and Quentin Grimes since the trade deadline. The other 3 or 4 have only been here for maybe, 2 weeks max when you look at Jalen Hood-Schifino, and he wasn't even with the Sixers. He was with the Blue Coats. They're just out there playing basketball and not thinking and looking at the opponent above them, opposite them. They know that they're not supposed to be on the floor competing with them, but they don't know that they're not supposed to be out there on the floor competing with them because they're just out there playing basketball. As Colin Derrick said, these last couple of games in general, these players are playing for themselves now. Most of them won't be back. So they're playing for themselves to figure out if there's an opportunity maybe here with the Sixers. When you look at what Oshae Brissett is doing, I don't know, right? With that. Jalen Hood-Schifino, does he get a 2-way opportunity with the Sixers in the training camp invite, or maybe just the summer league? I don't know, but they're doing stuff that's going to help themselves maybe in the long run. These are short sample sizes, and they still have 14 games to play. But what they can show other teams and as they go along is look at what we did together as a group and look at what I did buying into whatever the coach asked of me in that moment. Jalen Hood-Schifino had that shot at the end of regulation, and just the way the game was going, I'm like, he's going to hit that because of the way he was playing.
And in that situation, that's a pretty good shot,
look,
right? You get yourself to a nice pull-up mid-range shot.
Got a 19-footer. That was a good look.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And he had his head down. He was holding his head afterwards because he was frustrated with the loss. Oh, man, that was a good shot. You got a good look. You just missed it. And as you both said, they ran out of gas in the end. But that's all we've asked of them all season long. Unfortunately, most of the ones that we were asking that from are on the 11-name injury report that were out tonight, causing these 9 to go out there and play the way that they did. So hats off, tank hats off to them for what they did tonight, but they also did what we wanted them to do for the greater good, and that's lose this basketball game and give them, again, a chance to still stay in that mix.
I'll tell you something that I really enjoyed seeing in the middle of that game, and maybe it didn't end up working out to their best because I think it did wake the Rockets up a little bit after they had already gone on a run, was Jeff Doughton just not backing down from Tari Eason, right? They turned the ball over. There's a stoppage. And instead of just letting Tari Eason bully him, and Tari Eason's a pretty big dude, big athletic guy. Doughton's not small, but he's
compared to Tari Eason, he's
compared
small.
to Tari Eason, he is,
yeah.
and he's a fairly skinny guy. He's a wiry guard, right? And didn't take any grief from him. Said no, I'll give up the ball when I'm good and ready to. And then so there's a little brouhaha. Jalen Green shoves Jalen Hood-Schifino. They get a tech out of that. And in my head, because I'm focused on the big picture, the first thing is like, damn that Tech if they lose by a point, and boy did they come close to that being a decisive point in this game.
Yeah,
that'll be bad for the tanking stuff. But if you're looking at it for just the in game and what it says about these guys, like I love seeing that. I love seeing Jeff Doughton as, weirdly enough, he's one of the leaders of the team, right? Because he's been with Nurse the longest. He's got the most. It's an insane thing to say, I know, but it's true.
It's like, remember during the process we looked up, we're like, Furkan Korkmaz is the longest tenured Sixer? How did that happen?
But so to see him take some, form of, I was talking earlier about Paul George and responsibility and ownership and saying like, this is my team and I'm going to, I'll do whatever I can. That's an example of that. So like you set aside, they shot unsustainably well for a big part of that game. And this is not a performance you're going to ask them or expect them to replicate. What you can replicate is what you guys are talking about with the sharing the ball, moving the ball, playing freely, playing with no fear of consequence, what the future is, what the season has been. It's just, I'm on this basketball court with 4 other guys, and we're going to play for each other. We're going to do whatever we can to try to cobble this together down the stretch for this last 15 games or so. And there's something really beautiful in that, right? Like these guys coming together and trying to pick this up and figure it out on the fly. So like as stressful as that game was for people who were, rooting for a different outcome than the guys on the floor want, I still do the human element of it and the competitiveness of it. I just love seeing from all of these guys.
When you look at just think about them in a huddle, in a team huddle, as we all talked about them playing for one another. You have to imagine that in that team huddle, when it's just the players, no coaches, and maybe a player coach like Kyle Lowry stepping in or Tyrese Maxey stepping in and saying to them, you guys are not supposed to be out here right now. You're not supposed to be playing against the team and expected to win or even compete in this one. This is supposed to be a blowout. So that's exactly what the message is from each other to them, to each of one of them in that circle, in that huddle. Non-coach there, just all players. Let's just go out there and play basketball. We're all here for a reason. We all know how to play the game. We've all had a sniff in the NBA somehow, some way, sometime. We're all NBA players. Let's just go play. Let's just go hoop. And that's exactly what they're doing. And you're getting some coaching out of Nick Nurse as a result of it and seeing what they're doing. And I swear, man, I really want to know how many plays are actually being called. Like designs are being called in ATOs and things of that nature, but the stuff that just real basic install of what they have right now, I am very curious to know how many things are actually being called for them to run. That is not just the basic stuff, but they expand it out to let's try this. And I was looking at Nick Nurse at one point when he called Jalen Huscafino at the end of regulation over, and the Rockets were at the free throw line. He's like, come here, and he said, and I don't know what he was telling them, but he was coaching them up. He was listening to them. And I just, as much as we talked about Nick Nurse and getting these guys ready to play, he's been doing a heck of a job to have these players ready to go. Now, we can go back to the other.
I have some Nick Nurse thoughts for later.
We can go back to the other games also, but to see these guys go out there, the huddle, and of course, I think part of the coaching for what they're doing, this has just been fun to watch. It's unfortunate that we are here in this situation at this stage of the season. Of course, we expect it to be a similar record to the Rockets at 44-25, but we got to look at everything, and we want to talk about it all. We talk about the bad, we're talking about the good, we're talking about how happy we are that they still got the L. But man, these dudes to go out there and shoot 50% from the floor against one of the best defenses in the NBA, and I understand that Amen Thompson was out, but they still have some defensive reputational guys out there, and they were giving it to him. They were giving it to him.
It really does feel like process days where like you come in, you don't have any real expectations. Back then, we didn't have to really sweat losses too much because they got that work done earlier in the season. But you came in, you didn't have expectations, and everyone on the roster played hard because they had to. Because if they didn't play hard, they weren't going to be in the league, much less forget about their next contract. So it is, look, I'm not going to say this was a stress-free game. If you would have seen Kyle and I during most of that fourth quarter, like we were on the edge of our
Derek's
seat.
scared. So to tell you about our arrangement here with how we sit out in our lobby or office, I sit on the couch while we watch games. There's like a raised desk behind it. Derek likes to have his laptop out. And there was at least once or twice where Derek pounded the wooden desk like boom and scared the daylights out of me. So we were really going through it that whole 48
To be fair,
minutes.
Kyle was hooting and hollering too. It's
Yes.
just his head was like right by the desk, and I forget that sometimes. So I apologize about that. So yeah, it does feel processed days, both good in the fact that you don't really have to stress, but also it is nice to see players truly fighting for everything in front of them, and it's been some pretty enjoyable basketball, I have to say.
Has been. Let's take a quick pause here. Come right back. We also have to talk about the player of the game. This guy has been amazing. So we need to talk about
Sengun?
him too, who was one rebound shy of hitting that number.
Oh, man,
And
I saw that.
what was the one? There was a foul called on, I think it was Hood-Schifino by holding Sengun when he was going to chase down that miss towards the sideline for a rebound. So
Gambling Gibbons.
sorry, folks.
Foiled again.
He still needed extra 5 minutes to do that, but still, nevertheless, we'll talk about the other guy who
He
pretty
needed
much
an extra 5 when he only played like 22. So I don't think that logic really. Your logic on the bet was fine.
And we'll talk about the main one, though, that had just simply been fantastic in the Sixers uniform, our player of the game. We'll get to him when we get back. Sixers fall in overtime. Epic game, 144-137. It's the post-game show, PHLY style, presented by Bet365.
And gang, I know what you're thinking. What could I accessorize with that beautiful tank helmet that the fellas have on there tonight?
At 11:30 at
I'm
night.
so glad you asked. A great pair of polarized sunglasses from our friends at Shady Rays. They're helping you get in the right frame of mind with their premium polarized shades that also do not break the bank. Today was St. Patrick's Day. That normally is after that, it starts getting warm, right? We've gotten some signs. It's hitting the mid 60s. We're starting to feel like, oh, spring's coming and then summer's here. You need yourself a good pair of sunglasses. Here's the best part about Shady Rays. Durable frames, crystal clear optics. They're perfect for any outdoor adventure that you want to go on. So it doesn't matter what your spring or summer is going to look like, what your plans are. If you're staying around the house, going to the beach, heading to the mountains, whatever activity you need them for, Shady Rays will be here for you. And if your shades ever go missing or they take an unexpected hit on one of those summer adventures, you don't have to sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement program. Plus, if you don't love your shades, you can always exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. No risk shopping with our friends at Shady Rays. So PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off of polarized sunglasses with the code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com.
And look, if you're like me, I don't do anything in the winter. Home related, I push all of that until the spring while the weather is starting to get nice. So Ace Hardware Home Services is where you want to turn. Ace Hardware Home Services offers a wide range of residential maintenance, installation, and home repair services, including plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. They offer free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and budget. At Ace Hardware Home Services, whenever they get ready for the next job, they remember what to bring. They bring experience, local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. As I click that, they listen to your goals and the job isn't completed until you're satisfied. And they bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers postgame show presented by Bet365. Sixers falling in overtime. Fantastic game, 144-137, battling with the Rockets. Let's get to the temperature check here first, Bree. Let's get that in here early before we get to the other guy. Should we give it to him twice? Or should I really wanted to go another way with the temperature check here.
Go another way,
Let's
because
go
we
another way.
know who's getting the player of the game.
Yeah,
That's
so
obvious.
first, let's take a look at which player or team is heating up, cooling off with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And I was looking at, on the Sixers side, of course, for what they're doing. I was making fun of with Sengun, who's going to rebound for the Sixers? How are they going to get any boards tonight? But in the 3 games that Oshae Brissett has played for the Sixers, they lost to the Pacers, they beat the Mavs, and they battled here in this one. He's inserted into the starting lineup, giving up size.
He played 43 minutes tonight.
Giving up size and the things that he's doing, but he's out there hustling. We talk about these guys just trying to stay in the league and do their part. He has 14, 13, and 11 in his games. 5 boards tonight in the 43 minutes that Kyle has talked about. He's on a 10-day contract, everybody. So if there's any guess at all if he's going to get a second 10-day contract, I think we might know that answer because this guy's been heating up, playing really well, really well. First, he signs that 10-day contract. He's right on the floor and drops 14 against the Pacers in that game in Philadelphia, where a lot of people weren't really giving that much effort in that one. But he did. He's hitting his outside shot as well. So for me, I hope you guys agree, Oshae Brissett has been heating up.
Yeah, and he and Grimes are maybe the only ones who really hit the glass at all because Houston got 23 offensive rebounds. Probably the biggest reason they won that game outside of their hot shooting third quarter.
Yeah. Listen, I think he was part of why Sengun got benched, right?
Yeah.
It's because early in the game, Brissett was eating his lunch.
Yeah.
And frankly, some of it was just they played 5 out, right? And they just spread the floor and said, we're going to bomb away. And for somebody like Sengun, that's a problem, right? He doesn't want to have to play rim to the 3-point line. You want to keep him back a little bit, keep him around the rim, take advantage of his rebounding ability. But when there were opportunities for offensive rebounds and some plays around the glass on both ends, Brissett was there to make plays. So I respect that a guy that we're having a laugh pregame about his handle as Brissy, and it's I can't believe this is the starting lineup. But he doesn't end up having a spectacular game in the box score, but just a guy who was playing for the Long Island Nets, I believe, before he came here, and was just trying to piece it together. And who knows if he's ever even going to get back to the NBA. To get thrown into this situation in an emergency and start and play 43 minutes, that in and of itself is a Herculean task. So, tip your cap to him. Certainly not the player of the game, but trending upward.
Yes.
Because when he came in, it was well, hopefully he doesn't have to play, but good on him for staying ready and being ready for this opportunity.
And he has been in the 3 games that he's played. He's played Friday, Sunday, and Monday. So 3 games and 4 days and nights for a guy
tired, boy.
Just called up. But making the best of the opportunity. And Oshae Brissett has really been doing that. So we took a look. We saw it. Oshae Brissett heating up with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Give him that second 10-day.
I mean, sure.
Might as well. Might as well.
Can I give you a ice cold on the temperature check?
Let's go. Who's cooling off?
Nick Nurse.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why. And so I'll preface this by saying, I think this is actually a bigger indictment of the organizational structure than it is of Nick Nurse. When Nick Nurse is in a game and is doing what he thinks is going to help win a game because he's not getting some kind of mandate or instruction or, hey, your job is safe, so do things to help the greater good, that's not his fault. That's the organization. But although it ended up working out, when the Rockets are down 3 with less than 10 seconds left, fouling up 3 is simply unacceptable. It's that you just do not do that. If you're an organization that has an idea in your head that hey, we're tanking. They are very clearly not trying to win. They're giving Paul George injections. I've never heard of an injection that's a 6-week recovery time, by the way. I'll have to talk to a doctor about that. But so that's a story for another day. But you're ruling out Paul George for the season. Joel Embiid's done for the year. You're tiptoeing around the idea of, Maxey might come back, but also he's got a back, he's got a hand issue. So you have all these things. But then you're still going out at the end of these games as on the organization side and basically just flipping a coin and saying, well, let's leave it up to chance, right? Quentin Grimes, you watch the Toronto Raptors. They're pulling Scotty Barnes with like 10 minutes left in the game. Jakob Poeltl getting pulled with 6 minutes left in the game. Albeit they're still winning with some of these G League guys and cast-offs and whatnot, but like I'll never complain about the players playing hard and winning. I will complain about the front office and the coaching staff being delusional about what the actual objective of this end of the season is, right? So I get it. I'm not asking Nick Nurse to go out there and sabotage and like try to lose, but also somebody in the organization has to be like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But what are you thinking there?
He set up that play.
You have to, you have to let them try to. That's an outlier scenario, right? They make the first one, perfectly miss the free throw, and score the 2. Your best chance of going to overtime and losing is allowing them to take a 3. Like, let them defend it. If they make it, they make it. If they miss it, they miss it. Fouling up 3 is giving them very little chance to tie the game when the organization really needs that right now. So my beef is with, I don't care if it's Josh Harris, Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, like whoever it is, somebody's got to step in and say, what are we actually fighting for right now and for who? Because it just doesn't make any sense to me.
So
they're half-assing everything.
They're all not on the same page of how to do this correctly.
It's a half-ass season on every single front.
Yeah.
Kyle wants Daryl to go up to Nick Nurse and have the for who, for what conversation.
Right.
I don't get it.
Nick Nurse is cooling off in our 8 hardware temperature check, according to
I don't know
Kyle.
if he ever heated up, but ice cold at the very least.
You got the guys playing though right now. Got him hooping out there. Let's get to the play of the game because this guy has been tremendous. His second 40-point game in the Sixers uniform. He had the 44 in the remarkable victory over the Golden State Warriors. Game. And tonight, 46 after dropping 28 against Dallas yesterday afternoon. 46, 8 made threes on 14 attempts. And quietly, I don't know it's quietly, but he has 13 boards because it's being outshined by the 46 points that he had with the 4 assists. He was cold there at the end where he missed 3 consecutive shots, took some tough shots, but he had the hot hand, so you go to your guy. And Quentin Grimes is our player of the game, Derek, because, the run that he has been on and this stretch here, he missed that one game. They were tanking properly that game when he sat against the Pacers. But since then, he's been back and against Dallas 28, winning the game tonight, gave them a chance with the career high, topping his previous career high of 44 a few weeks ago, 46 on 15 for 27 shooting.
I want to give a shout out to my former colleague, Mike O'Connor. Quentin Grimes now has as many 35-plus point games in a Sixers uniform in 17 games as Tobias Harris did in 378. That's amazing.
He also has more 30-point games than Paul George in the Sixers uniform already.
Well,
and less games.
Tobias had a long runway there.
Yes, he did.
Now, granted, obviously, you're playing without stars and yada, yada, yada. But he is on a truly incredible run.
Phil Evans says, hand him the keys. He's got the keys right now to close out the season. Yes.
Well, build the team around Grimes.
That was Tony Bradley, right? Yeah, it was Tony Bradley.
Yeah, that was Joel tweeted that back in the day.
But it's one thing to score 20 a night, dish out, 4 assists. Mm-hmm. The efficiency and the night-to-night consistency, usually when you have that big of a jump in usage, you're not consistent. You're not efficient. Him to be able to do this while shooting, he came into the game shooting 50% from the field and 37% from 3, not really turning the ball over all that much for a top option. And to be sitting here and just down the stretch, you knew he was getting the ball every time. And I think he ran out of gas a little bit. The legs were tired. But he was, and look, this was, I know they didn't have everyone tonight. This is the number 2 ranked defense in the league, and he was dusting people
Torched them
on the perimeter.
Torched them.
The 8 made threes are going to highlight it, but he was getting the bucket whenever he wanted. It was a really impressive performance.
I mean, he shot 13 free throws.
Yeah.
That, like, just an
incredible run he's on. Absolutely incredible.
I don't even know how to properly contextualize it because there's 800 factors to consider, right? On the one hand, it's like, yeah, there's no real creators on the team, so he gets to play himself into, but like also when they were at their best, frankly, in that game, he kind of just let other people cook, right? It wasn't in the second half. Maybe you could say, hey, he started dominating the ball and scoring, and that's when they started losing. But I don't think the issue in the second half was they stopped scoring. Houston got rolling from three, and they have more problems defensively. Like, I think the common theme for me has been he's having these big games, but it's not like they just give him the ball and he clears out and it's like 2018 Harden and Houston every possession, right? Like, he's being an opportunistic scorer, save for, in overtime, obviously it's like everyone's tired, right? They're not running much. It's a lot of ISO. It's a lot of, he's got the hot hand, give this guy the ball. But for 4 quarters, or at least 3.5 quarters, it was situational offense. It's attacking when he sees an opportunity, hitting the catch and shoot threes, hitting the pull up when they drop in pick and roll coverage, attacking closeouts, being an off ball cutter. Like, I think one of his first baskets of the game was a baseline cut that he went behind Dylan Brooks and had the dunk, right? So like, his offense is just coming from all different types of stuff, types of plays, types of moves. And for him to be able to have these games, and just like these other guys still have opportunity, right? Like, we've seen a lot of games.
He's not hijacking the offense.
Where it's like, look, it's James Harden and it's Embiid and Maxey are the 3 guys, and they take, if the team took 100 shots, they took 90 of them. I'm just exaggerating for effect, but like, they're dominating the ball, possession, time, all of that. And some guys are just like PJ Tucker in the corner taking 3 or 4 shots, and that's kind of it. Whereas he's taking a lot of shots, but the wealth is being spread. So I feel so much better about what he's doing because of that. This isn't just black hole offense. Everything runs through Grimes, and he's doing this because somebody has to score. This is somebody who's getting single coverage for some reason because teams are like, well, we're not going to double him. I have no idea why you wouldn't double and trap him more with the way he's playing. And he is just cooking guys. And tonight he's cooking guys on a really good defensive team. That's an awesome performance from him, even with the, he falls apart a little bit down the stretch. But you're talking about a guy who has played 43 minutes on the second half of back-to-back and is carrying the offense. That's crazy.
Yeah, at every level he's giving it to him. He's going to the basket against the best defenders because he's drawing that assignment. Kyle just talked about why they're not double-teaming. Well, even though they're not double-teaming, he's still getting the best perimeter player every single game that he's out there. You're talking about all the guys tonight. I saw our buddy Phil in there say hacking ass Dylan Brooks, cooking him, right? Then you got Tari Eason, come get some. Then you have...
By the way, full bozo moment for him in the fourth quarter. What was Tari Eason doing, man?
So then you got Jabari Smith gets switched on. Cooking him, come get some. And you go back to yesterday, Najee Marshall and Max Christie, PJ Washington, come get some. And he's just going at all these dudes on every level. 3-point, mid-range, drives to the basket. Kyle talked about his free throws today, getting to the line as many times as he's done. And he's the focal point of their offense. They are
got to make more free throws, but he's taking a lot of them.
And even when he wasn't taking a lot, he was still missing them. This is who he is. He has to get better at those flat out. He just 100%. Has to get better at those because he's going to play minutes for either this team or whatever team he plays for. He has just been fantastic. We talked about the numbers yesterday, and we were looking at him. He's averaging 26 points this month in 9 games. He's only had 1 dud. That's 6 point where against Boston. He was 2-for-11 in 33 minutes. He had 6 points in that one. Everything else is 46, 28, 29, 35, 25, 30, a 14 in there, and a 44 that we talked about against Golden State. He has been on a tear right now for the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's why a lot of people are going to be simply asking the question, continuing to ask the question of what is the future going to look like. Jess even asked, I'm getting afraid that we're not going to be able to bring him back now because this guy, we've seen it. We've said it so many times. We've seen enough. We don't need to see anymore at all. We already know he's good. He's a part of it. He's going to be part of the future if they bring him back. But to watch him and this ascension that he's had as a lead guy, that he's not going to have that opportunity a lot of times. But to your point about Tobias Harris, we've seen him in the past have to do some things as a fourth option, can't take over. Boy, this guy's not scared to take over if he gets the rock in any position as the fourth guy. He has it hot. They trust him to get the basketball. He just goes out there and cooks.
Yeah. No, I'm really interested to see how he evolves next year. And look, in terms of can they bring him back, they have his full bird rights and he'll be restricted. So they can literally pay him up to the max and they have the option of whether they want to match it. It's entirely their decision whether they want to. And Josh Harris, how far he wants to go in that luxury tax. So yeah, it is really interesting how he ends up playing next to Maxey and McCain because he has the ability to play off and on ball. He has the ability to be a two-way guard. Theoretically, he should be a virtually a perfect fit. And I do think getting a little bit of this creation responsibility, both for himself and also running offense for others, it'll be good for him. The concern would be if somebody comes out and gives him, let's say, a $16, $17, $18, $19 million contract, then he comes back next year. He's a fourth option. Maybe, he doesn't put up the kind of numbers that he's putting up now. That contract might not look great. Quite frankly, if he comes back and he's only averaging like 13 or 14 per game, it means that your other four players, the core four, are healthy and playing. And if that ends up being a bad contract because he's just not getting the opportunity that he currently is, I will live with that any day of the week.
Absolutely. Can we give another cooling off?
Man, Ace Hardware, the temp checks
they're
flying
working
fast and furious right now.
And we talked to Mark Stein yesterday, cooling off and has cooled off for the last 6 weeks. Boy, you trade Luka and Quentin Grimes going off like this.
Nico.
You have cooled off, my man.
The version of hell that is frozen over is where Nico Harrison will end up if Mavs fans have anything to do with it. My God.
That cooling off. Whew.
Yeah.
It's not a good run for him right now. So
honestly, I never, and look, Quentin Grimes has been like 10 times better than I expected.
Yeah.
Even still, it's like, wait, he's younger. He has more perimeter skills and he's healthier. Like, why are the Sixers getting that pick back? I think they were worried about his next contract, which I get, but yeah, it's looking like a steal.
Looking like a steal.
It's hard to conceptualize that this guy's on his fourth team in 4 years, right? Like some of it is just like situation, context, whatever. He moves at a deadline deal from the Knicks, and then he's in Detroit briefly, and Detroit's like, well, we want more of like a older veteran type in Hardaway and blah, blah, blah. And then whatever.
Nico.
I was going to say something that I don't want to get accused of slander or libel on the show. So I'll just say he's been on a rampage down there in Dallas, Nico. Listen, Grimes has been unbelievable. And frankly, like, here's an interesting thing to think of. So I feel like we have talked a lot about Grimes versus Yabu and like that being a priority balancing act in the offseason. Frankly, I think at this point, when you see what Grimes is doing, and then you look at Oubre and his limitations and his fit concerns that he brings, and that's not to take anything away from, we've talked a lot about Oubre's competitiveness and everything he's done defensively while other guys weren't playing hard and blah, blah, blah. But like when you look at the projectable skill sets at what you're trying to build, like Grimes is such an easier fit than Oubre is. And like, so that, I don't know what Oubre's kind of thinking is going into this offseason, but if I'm trying to get into the Sixers mindset, it's like, almost would want them to opt out and just like, hey, if you can find somewhere to go, it's been nice knowing you, but we have a guy who probably works better for what they need right now.
Yeah. If you want any chance of using that non-taxpayer, you pretty much need Kelly to opt out and walk.
Yeah. And Derek, you mentioned it too, just the two-way ability to have with his defense is you can count on that too with that guy out there on the floor. So long-winded player of the game, but well-deserved player of the game is always brought to you by no one. But that guy has been tremendous for the 76ers. I'm sure we'll talk about him a lot more in these final 14 games. Take a quick break. We come back. We get to the Super Chats as well. And tough game for the Sixers. I know, like T. Harris is saying, you guys shouldn't have the tank helmets on because it's a tough loss for those guys. Well, yeah, we feel bad for those guys.
We started up a bit. We're going to commit to the bit.
We got to commit to the bit, T. Harris. Sorry.
Frank the Tank.
Right. We'll come back right here on the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. One rebound short, everybody. One rebound short. Quentin Grimes came out.
Curse you, Sengun.
Quentin Grimes came out
also
hot in this one, where he got to that 21 and a half pretty quickly, ended up with a game best and a career high 46. The Sengun 11 and a half rebounds tonight. Close one, no cigar though. But had fun, of course, as always, betting at Bet365, where I'm part of the 90 million users worldwide. You should be too. They have live streams of 780,000 events a year, early payouts in the NBA and the NHL, and they have pioneered the live in-game betting. So if you wanted to go with the under of that rebounding number for Sengun, and maybe even wanted to up the points per game for this one for Quentin Grimes as he got hot early in that first quarter, you could have done that with the live in-game betting at Bet365. New customers can also get $150 right now in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Again, that's win or lose, folks. So make sure you take advantage of that. When you do sign up, the bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. And those futures starting right now this week with the tournament getting underway. Who's going to win? That's considered a future. You can make that bet at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We also want to make sure we tell you about TrueMark Financial. It's almost spring, and that means it's time to spring into savings. If you have financial goals, whether it's buying a house, taking that dream vacation, or building your emergency fund, TrueMark Financial Credit Union has a perfect savings account for you. TrueMark Financial offers high-rate certificates and money market accounts to help your money grow faster and work harder for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates and to learn more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, Equal Opportunity Lender. Rates are subject to change.
We're back. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show.
Can I brief?
Presented by Bet365.
Can I brief interlude? Because I was scrolling social media while we were paying our bills and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the score of the Spurs-Lakers game at halftime. I think the Spurs are down 14, I believe. And I was like, it's got to be good to be San Antonio. Like, they have De'Aaron Fox now. They have Wemby. Obviously we're all hoping that his health stuff checks out in the near future. And I don't think I realized how little they've actually given up of their own stuff to get to where they're at, right? Like, their only outstanding pick that they owe to anybody in the league is the 2027 first that they sent to Sacramento in that Fox Levine trade. And then their incomings are like, they own all this stuff from Atlanta. They have Atlanta's first round pick this year. They have a pick swap with Atlanta next year. They have second round picks from New Orleans and Portland and Indiana in the next couple years. They have Atlanta's 2027 first. It's like, it must be really nice to have Victor Wembanyama, but also all this flexibility to make your team better in the future.
It's almost like a team that had Joel Embiid, back-to-back consecutive number one picks, and 2 max rookie contract slots, and also enough trade assets to trade for Jimmy Butler.
Are you saying that the Colangelo family might have fumbled a golden opportunity?
That's why whenever we sit here and we're like, oh, all of these mistakes at the end when they were desperate, well, what really gets me is why they were desperate, and we don't need to relitigate that, but I will forever regret that period of the Sixers history.
Oh.
There will be enough shows for that in the offseason to talk about stuff like that.
Anyway, sorry, I just saw that, and I was like, I actually don't
They're
remember
in a really good spot.
What picks they are actually outgoing and in, because when the Fox trade happened, it was like it was either right after or before Luka. After Luka, I believe. It was like Luka happened Saturday night, and I think the Fox trade happened like Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think I just like didn't pay that much attention to it because the
were
Luka
still
trade
in
had
shock,
just happened.
yeah.
It was like a league-altering trade. Like, I like Fox. I don't necessarily love him, but like to get him and you basically don't owe anything for it is just crazy.
And they're still going to get a player in this draft unless they move on from that spot. But to get a player
Yeah,
back,
right. They'll probably end up with like at worst, they'll probably end
8th,
up
9th pick.
top 10.
the shooting kid from Duke, what's his name? I don't know how to say his
I
name.
actually don't know how to say his
Yeah,
name.
but you know, what I'm
Double
talking
K.
about. Yeah,
We'll call
Double
him.
K, number 7 for the Blue Devils. There, as we get ready to get the tournament.
I've been learning
started.
how to say the center's name, so I'll work on him, and then I'll work on Canoopal or however
right,
it's said.
right. Number 7, Double K. All right,
You know who I actually like a lot? I've been watching more of. I think he's probably, if the Sixers were to do a trade back thing, Jace Richardson, Michigan State.
Yeah.
Nice player, but I think he doesn't really fit with this.
Isn't that
He's
Jason's
like
son?
He is Jason's son.
It's Jason's son. Yeah.
But he's like 6'3", not especially big either, like muscle wise, or he'll fill out at some point, but that would complicate matters a lot. But really like him as a player.
Yeah. The other guy that I do like, I know we're going to talk about a lot of these guys as we get ready for the tournament, but the kid, the guard, he looks so young too. Jeremiah Fears.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he has been coming on big time lately.
Man, yeah. So we'll see what happens with him. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him as things go along. You got to do. We forgot yesterday to do the daily spin, so you got to do that a little bit later. Let's get to the super
You
chat.
do 2 back-to-back spins tonight.
No,
Make
you don't
up
do
for
2
it.
spins.
Huh?
That's a rule. You can't do 2 spins.
2-1.
Not in a day.
Just do the one.
It's like your rule. You can't do one before
All
the
right.
day. You can't do 2 in a day.
I respect a man with rules, just like what's his name, Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. You got to let the coin decide.
Yep.
That's it. Skunk Riley with the haiku to start us off, Kyle.
All right. Thank you to Skunk, as always. This haiku, he says, is titled Happy Accidents. Glorilla wannabe. I say, foul went up by 3. You got lucky, Nick. Thank you, Skunk Riley, for that beautiful haiku, as always.
By the way, I don't get the Glorilla thing. I just don't. And I have a 17-year-old, and I'm like,
I don't want to.
I don't get it.
As a 35-year-old white guy, I don't want to be up here talking too much about Glorilla and Sexy Red and my thoughts on their music. But yeah,
Not a fan.
definitely not for me.
Yeah, it's not for me. I'm not a
Maybe
fan.
actually, I meant to ask you if your daughters are Cardi people, since his album just came out on Friday.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
That describes my relationship with Playboy Cardi as well.
Right, sometimes. Yeah, yeah. The one flaw my youngest is on right now is she will not walk away from the Drake side. And,
It's unfortunate.
disappointing.
Well, actually, we probably should pull that picture up at some point of Jared, Kyle Lowry, and
right.
Drake looking like he's aged by about 15 years in a year. So
He really has. Yeah, it's been a long year for him. Long year. Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beast, this is how our bench should have been playing. Should have been built all year. Davon.
It is
guys
nice.
who actually want to play.
Want to play, can actually get by a guy on the perimeter
Yeah.
and have a little bit of size and athleticism to get out in the open floor. It's just, it really, and look, we can sit here about Paul George and like the risks and obviously the Embiid extension, but the one thing that just made absolutely no sense to me was that guard rotation they started the season with. It is nice to see them correct that a little bit.
I mean, I hate to
Too
hammer
late,
that
but-
I said for 2 months,
No,
they
that-
signed too many short guys.
Yeah, they did.
But like, once you sign guys that are 6'5" and up and actually can run and play in space, it's
None of them could play next to Maxey anyway. It was befuddling. It was really
Except for Eric Gordon with the shooting.
Yeah.
But that needed to be situational.
Well, and then they just waited too long to get the dental surgery, so you only had a good Eric Gordon for like a
the
month.
season changing.
He was out there. He was out there with Kelvin Sampson taking pictures because the Houston.
But yeah, I mean, Davon, you're here all the time. You know how we felt all year about the lack of youth, the lack of athleticism, like wanting size and wings. And
Well, they got another one that they had. You just didn't know. Justin Edwards.
Yeah.
He had
And
18 tonight.
I think it's harder in the summer. The guys that you're generally signing to those minimum deals, like you're not going to get young guys most of the time, at least young guys that you know are going to be good. It is going to have to be a two-way player who's got more to prove, or a two-way contract player, I should say, a two-way guy that like has not made it for one reason or another, and you take a flyer on them, and it takes those guys a little bit of time to earn the coach's trust and get in the rotation. But yeah, we're in 100% agreement.
Edwards averaging 10 points this month, by the way. Justin
Real good
Edwards.
game. I feel like we probably should have talked about it more, but like Quentin Grimes had a career night.
Yeah.
Made a couple nice passes too.
Yeah, he
I like
did.
the way Justin
Yep.
played.
The
Playing really
slash
well.
and kick game was
Yeah.
there. Like, yeah,
And that
some
quick
nice night.
release is something from that guy. Jay of the Jungle, what up, Jay? I'm afraid for Quentin Grimes if he costs the Sixers a top 6 pick and gets an extension. First cold streak, and the fan base is going to eat him alive.
Let's say he comes out. Let's say he gets like 4 years, $65 million. I don't think the fan base is going to eat him alive. Like
No.
it's not quite big enough to really like weigh your team down. And if he comes back and all the players are playing, then he's not going to be expected to carry anything.
I think unless you have a 9-figure contract, fans are generally not going to be like going crazy over you. I think once you hit, it doesn't matter who it is or how long it is. If it's $100 million or more, that's when people start looking at you like, what the hell are you doing when you're not performing? And then when you have the cover of it's Maxey, it's PG, it's Embiid,
Right.
that's like,
Let's be honest. As long as Embiid's on a team, he's going to be
he
the lightning
is,
rod.
it is one of the blessings of being his teammate is like, even if you stink it up for like a month or two, he's the human shield. You just throw him out there and say, Joel, you got to take this one.
I respectfully disagree with both of you.
Really?
I think that because of what he has shown, even though he will be in a different role, because of what he has shown and what the fan base might expect from him, even in a role that's reduced because of what he's going to be with those other guys out there on the floor, when he does have a 2-for-11 shooting night off the bench, or if he's starting, or if he does have a bad week and maybe cost him a game because of his shooting not being or his scoring not being there as the pick-me-up off the bench if he's not starting and the other guys did their jobs, I do think he would get his fair share. I don't think it's going to be just berating
fair share,
him.
I agree with.
I think he would get his fair share of, yo, my man, this is not Detroit, and you need to get it together and get back to why they kept you. And if Yabusele leaves also, we kept you over Yabusele. That's just going to be something they add on top of it.
I think the real danger for him, if we're talking about where he could get actual animosity, is like, let's say Nurse comes back, or it doesn't even matter who the coach is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's more of an established veteran. He's obviously someone who has produced a lot for this team as of late. Let's say McCain's role next year is smaller than people want it to be. It's like people come into the season expecting, hey, this is going to be a level up for Jared McCain. And that means increased production, increased role in terms of minutes, like whatever that means. They're expecting step forward, big time year from Jared. And Quentin Grimes, even if he's not playing well, because he's a veteran, because he got, 4 for 60, 4 for whatever the number is, he's a starter and he's a guy who gets closing opportunities, starting opportunities, and more minutes than McCain. If he doesn't play up to, doesn't have to be this level, right? I think everyone is smart enough to know, or I would hope is smart enough to know, he's not going to shoot 1,000,000,000% from 3 forever. But if he continues to play and get opportunities and get positioning over McCain, and he doesn't play up to a level that is satisfactory to the fans, that's when I could see, I agree there, that then I think people could be like, yo, what the hell is happening? We have this kid who was awesome last year, and now all of a sudden he's fallen out of favor for no real fault of his own.
Yep. Should be an interesting one to see him with the other guys next season, full training camp and all with this group. We go to Matt Webster. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Bad juju, man. Bad juju. Can't do that.
Say Drake. That still shot of Kendrick at the Super Bowl
With
has
the
been
smile on
killing
his
me ever
face?
since, just the looking directly at the camera.
Because everybody was like, is he going to say his name? Is he even going to do
That
this?
halftime show
If
was
is he even gonna do
specifically
it?
for me. I loved that whole the whole 15 minutes or whatever it was, 11 minutes, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah, good times. Good times. Matt Webster with the super chat. Do you think that Grimes is playing too good and the Sixers won't match a large offer from elsewhere? If so, will Edwards and Butler be the only two guys from tonight that will be relevant next year?
No, like I said, they will have his full bird rights. He'll be a restricted free agent. It really comes down to Josh and his appetite of paying the luxury tax. I mean, like, you don't want to give him too big of a contract where it would be a tough one to trade. Not that you would necessarily want to trade Grimes, but you always want to be flexible. You always want players to be on positive value contracts. You might not get him back on a positive value contract, but given where they are, I think they need to bring him back. No, I think they should be able to keep him.
All right. So go to Scott Sotan saying, help me. How can I root for the young guys who look better than the team has all year and root for them to lose at the same time?
I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, we found a way to do it.
Yeah, the end game. The end game is what's important. And you root for them and hoping that they get chances, whether it's here or elsewhere, and they get an opportunity, Scott, to show the film from what they did this year in a tough situation with the Sixers, leveling up to what they weren't supposed to be doing and getting an opportunity elsewhere.
And here's the thing. If they come out there and they play hard and they come up short, no team in the summer is going to look at it and be like, I really thought about Oshae, but they weren't able to pull that win out against the Houston Rockets, or they lost, 10 of their last 12 games.
Are the Rockets the dancers for the Rockets?
Look, it is midnight.
They probably do. The Rockets definitely
properly
exist.
Midnight. Leave me the heck alone. Nobody's going to look at that.
I'm scared to search Houston Rockets because I think some gentlemen's establishments might come up at that point.
But my point is, nobody's going to hold it against them when they're thinking about giving any of these players in their next contract. Like, they're not intended to win games.
No.
They have a great opportunity. Whether or not the team succeeds or not, this is an opportunity that they are going to be thankful for, quite frankly.
And Scott, I would also say this: we've talked a lot about Adem Bona lately. I know he has not played the last couple of games with the ankle issue. We talk about what we're seeing development-wise for him, right? So, like, with the young guys, and especially the young guys who we think will be here, a lot of it is tracking, this is something we didn't think he could do, but now he's shown it in a game. We saw it in 2 or 3 games. Adem Bona, screen settings better, pick and roll plays better, the hands look a little better. He's not fouling as much. He's playing better switch defense. Like, that's stuff that you can still look for, root for. You can do a little fist pump and be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I want to see more of that. I want to see that next year. I can't wait to see what he looks like with the big boys when everyone's back next year. And you can still hope at the end of the game that the final score says opponent, bigger number, Sixers, smaller number. I think it's pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm. And T. Harris says, number one, what's the end game? Follows it up and says, y'all are too concerned about a draft pick that's not guaranteed to pan out. They get hurt too,
A draft pick that brings something is better than a draft pick that goes elsewhere and they don't have anything to show for it.
With the draft, people are so focused on something being a guarantee. There is nothing else that happens in this sport that is a guarantee. Nothing. Not a free agent signing, which we're seeing.
What'd they say in Star Wars, Derek? Only a Sith deals in absolutes?
Yes. There's no trade that's a guarantee. You look at the best players in the league, for the most part, they tend to come in top 5 picks. I know you can sit here and go like, oh, Jokic was this. And you can
Curry was that.
Pick your examples that are, happen. But by and large, the vast majority of them are top 5 picks. That doesn't mean every top 5 pick is going to work out. Doesn't mean every team's going to have an opportunity to draft a superstar. But this is your best chance to change a course of direction. And again, the opportunity cost is nothing. There is nothing left for them to accomplish over the course of this godforsaken season. A draft pick might not be a guarantee, but it's the best thing we have in front of us.
Yep. Because they're already guaranteed not to make the playoffs. So you might as well at least try your best to get the pick and give yourself an extra young player, a talented young player to go with that. AllPHLY.com. Make sure you go sign up, become a diehard member, and get all the great written content from these guys there at AllPHLY.com. Also, while we're here talking about things happening at PHLY, Fran Duffy Oh, man, look at this. Fran's
Our
film
guy,
session,
Fran.
March 25th, next week, 5:30 to 8, live in studio. Fran is going to go through some film session with the Birds. I don't know, maybe some draft picks since he's got all that stuff going on as well. And May 6th, a second date, 5:30, 8 p.m. as well. And that's right after, is that right after the draft? Somewhere around there? So film session with Fran. Earlier today when I was watching the PHLY Eagles show, I think they said it was something around 7 left. They've been selling like hotcakes. So you might want to get in there and check.
I think I'm going to have to buy one. I got to brush up on these draft picks.
Yeah.
Tell Fran to start covering basketball, and I'll learn from him.
So go
Grind the
sign
tape.
up. allphly.com. Go to the events page and find Fran so you can sign up there at allphly.com.
Like, for example, we have someone in here, I won't mention by name, I'm not trying to put him on blast, suggesting trading Maxey for another pick in this draft. Maybe you walk away with, Ace Bailey instead of Maxey, a better balanced team, something like that, trading a guard for a forward that you need. That is a massive risk. That's a massive, it's one thing, that's when I will say, that's a draft pick. You don't know what he will become. You don't know if he's going to pan out. He might get injured. He might just stink. You're trading a real, tangible, all-star caliber player for an unknown. That's when I think it's fair to bring up an unknown in the draft. When you're talking about oh man, I really would prefer it if they won 4 of their last 14 games instead of 2. No, that's where you lose me. Give me that draft pick. Give me that uncertainty. Give me that hope.
Yeah. I know there are a few people in this chat that, and Winona is one of them, for example, that's still rooting for the wins. And the way I describe it on my end is I want the players to succeed and play well. I want the organization to fail in the short term. I want the organization to lose. I want the Sixers to lose, but I want the Jeff Doughtons, the Ricky Councils, the Adem Bonas, the Oshae Brissetts. I want those guys to play well, put stuff on tape that whether it's for the Sixers, the NBA, teams overseas, whoever it is, that they can go and say, this is what I can do. Give me opportunity. Because as people, I want all these guys to succeed. There's not a single person I've covered, even the players who I didn't like their game or I didn't even like them as people. I don't want them to fail, right? It's their careers. This is their lives. This is their dream they've been working for. I want those guys to have that and to succeed. What I don't want is the Sixers to win games because for our sake, for your sake too, it's really it's about you guys. Your future will be more fun following the Sixers if they hold on to this pick, and losing games right now gives them a better opportunity to hold on to it. That's point blank, period.
Because if they're back to winning next year, T. Harris and everybody else who is along those lines, we're also going to be talking to you about said player and how well he's playing and you liking them.
And at summer league and in training camp, it's think about one of the best parts of this whole godforsaken season. Jared McCain all the way through training camp. We're in the Bahamas, Devon. We're hearing, hey, this kid's tearing things up. And at first we're we're a little dismissive. They're talking up the rookie. Then in the preseason, it's hey, this kid looks pretty good. Gets his shot in the rotation in the regular season. Man, this kid's good. And that was just this injection of energy, even with Joel hurt, even with PG out. That gave us all something to get fired up about, to come into this show and say, yeah, they're losing. Yeah, they're doing this. But this is something we're watching this kid, not just for now, but for 5 years, for 10 years, however long he might be here. That's what that draft pick represents. And so that's why we are so shamelessly wearing the tank helmets. We're on board with this plan, baby.
And we get it. And Aaron even says, I guess I'm on the other side because I'm not sure if it matters. They win or lose because I'm convinced that the lottery balls are not going to fall their way. It's going to fall the worst way possible. Well, that's the lottery. So but you have to give yourself that chance, right? Just like if you decide to actually go buy a lottery ticket to win that $1 billion lottery or whatever it is, you go out there and take that chance. And this is them taking that chance to see if they can, in fact, keep it and go from there. One more super chat, kind of along the lines of what Derek was just talking about. Phil Evans with the late one saying, imagine having 2 top 4 picks to reset the future. with if we get a top 4 pick, say we flip Maxey, that's basically what you were saying, for another top 3 pick, reset the future right now.
All right, well, I was trying not to blow up Phil's spot, but Phil was the one in the chat bringing that up. No. It's one thing if you want to talk about a top, trade Maxey for a flag, yeah, I'll trade Maxey for a flag. But once you get out of the top 2, I am not nearly confident enough to go making that trade. Yeah. I think there's a pretty severe fall off after 2.
Okay, if you just walk with me down this hypothetical. Let's say you get the 4th pick, and whoever has 1, let's call it Washington, says, we'll trade you 1 straight up for Maxey.
Yes.
But who are you taking with those 2 picks? So flag is 1, but who's
flag
4?
1, and then you have McCain and Grimes as your backcourt.
So let's say flag goes 1, Harper goes 2.
I'm saying
we'll say Ace
goes
Bailey
3.
goes 3. Who are you taking it for?
I'm still probably taking VJ.
Okay. I'm just curious. I think I probably agree with you. I do have my VJ concerns, and I'm going to have to really dig deep into all these guys as we get closer to May and June, but
DC Marley says, I hope we can somehow get VJ Edgecombe. So there you go. Let's Riaz with a late one. Another one. Thank you, Riaz. Guys, do you see this one, this as a 1-year hiccup with the potential lineup next year of Maxey, McCain, Grimes, George, Ace Bailey, and Embiid, if healthy? Could the Sixers compete for a title next year?
I mean, that if is doing a lot of lifting there.
Look,
I'm not out on the talent on this team. But Joel Embiid's got to play basketball.
He's the guy.
And he's got to play good basketball, not what we saw in January and February.
Yeah, he's the guy.
I have no real, I can't give you a confidence level on that.
I can't even count how many times we've said on this show, we discuss all these other things, but then it's Joel is 1, 2, and 3 reasons that either they're good or they're bad. So if he comes back next year and looks like he has throughout this season, who the hell knows?
Yep. All right, let's get ready to look at the Tank Watch quickly here and see what happened tonight, because we had some that we needed to pay attention to. Detroit and the Pelicans, 127-81. That's a blowout. And we just got breaking news that Trey Murphy is out for the year after tearing his labrum in his shoulder.
Ugh.
So he's out for the year. Not good for them. Maybe not even good for the Sixers. That's 1 game down. Game number 2.
Really like Trey Murphy, man. I feel like he's had a tough run this year because when he's played, he's been good. But
yep. Game 2, the Bulls beat the Jazz 111-97. So they're doing their part of still winning those games. What did Josh Giddey do tonight?
Devon's favorite, the Kenny Smith. It's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. The Bulls are just pulling away.
Yes, they are. And 2 more games. The Toronto Raptors taking on the Phoenix Suns. Do we have an update?
I know Phoenix was
out,
destroying Toronto.
127-89. And when you look at, we talked about Scotty Barnes sitting, things that he's played 31 minutes, but he was out there with Quickly, who did play 30. Castleton got his second 10-day contract. He started. Mogbo and Battle also out there. Garrett Temple, AJ Lawson, all those guys getting a run too. So, it was bound to happen. Caught up to him. That's 2 in a row for them now.
Weird NBA night. No Jokic, no Murray. Nuggets, Warriors, and the Nuggets are up 10 points with 8.5 to go against Golden State. So between the Houston game that we watched, Phoenix putting the beats on Toronto, and I didn't even think they were capable of doing that against any team. Just a lot of weird stuff happening tonight.
And
the Knicks had a big blowout win too,
116-95. In that when they were down early big and they came back, turned it around. Kale led them in scoring with 28 tonight. Towns with 23, triple-double for Josh Hart in that win. So good win for them coming back from that long road trip. You know how sometimes you get caught on that first game back from the long road trip?
I want to have an off-air Knicks conversation with you at some point.
Okay, sounds good.
Family business stays in the family.
94-73 Lakers up on the Spurs right now at the end of the third. 94-75 now. So with that, as we talk about Tank Watch and where we currently are, let's make up for last night and get the one spin in before we get to our world famous roll call. Let's get the Tankathon spin in for the night and see exactly what happens. Last time it was not a good one. What did they get? Like
I think I
8th
missed
pick?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so 8th pick. Got to make up for it tonight after
I'm
missing
staring
yesterday.
you down. You better not mess it up.
Let's get the
as if you have the control over
the
Tankathon's algorithm.
Oh, number 1 pick.
Whoa.
See, I'm not lying.
Not lying. How many spots?
Nobody
did they jump?
questioned if you were
What did they
lying or
jump?
not.
They jumped 4 spots?
5, I think, right?
5 spots. Look at that.
Who you taking, Devon?
Got to go the flag.
We honestly haven't even really talked about him all that much because it's
got
pretty
to
much
go the flag. Yeah, you got to go the flag.
Boy, after missing out last time, I'm happy to finally get the one on this one.
After tonight, they are dead heat for 5. So
Yeah.
23 and 45, even
Brooklyn?
with
There,
Brooklyn.
you got flag. You didn't even have to trade Maxey.
One
Perfect.
game up
Perfect.
with Toronto, even with both losing. Okay,
Yes.
that's it. All right, so you get Cooper Flag,
Well,
folks.
it's a half game, but yes, Toronto's got 24 wins, so they're ahead of them.
And the Toronto has, even with the one game, they have 2-1 series lead. I think it's 2-1.
Well,
series.
so those, as Derek pointed out, because I was
doesn't
in this
matter.
mindset, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's coin flips, and they split. What's it called? Split the ping pong balls.
Yep. All right, you got it. All right, is that it? Did we get everything? Oh, what is this?
That was me reacting to that game. This is cinema.
This is cinema.
Great game.
So was this podcast. Cinema.
There's another one. It's in my phone somewhere. It's the same Martin Scorsese face, but it says absolute cinema, and it's him going like hands out, like stop it. That was such a good movie. So shout out to Marty Scorsese.
Bootzilla says flag to the Sixers. It has been written.
Capture the flag, baby.
Boots. Let's hope so.
Unfortunately,
Playing like poop for Coop.
All right.
By the way, Duke managed to win the ACC tournament without him.
Yeah,
So that was,
and they said he
well, without
should
him
be
for 2 games, right?
should be back for Friday.
I hope so.
Should be back for Friday. SB Cole says flag might stay at Duke. Not if the Sixers get the first overall pick. That
He's
ain't
not
happening.
If I
He's
could
not
do an
staying
Arnold
Duke.
Schwarzenegger impression, I'd say no chance.
Yeah,
like
he's
he
not
says
staying
in
at Duke.
Commando.
Well, you do the Arnold Schwarzenegger's.
I mean, I do the soundboard. I don't.
You do the get the chopper.
Get to the chopper. Yeah. I mean, I know all the lines. Arnold, I have said on this show, has a top 10 filmography of any actor ever. I'll go to war for Arnold any day, but nobody wants to hear me trying to do an Austrian impression.
again, the reason he will never stay at Duke is not because of next year's like $13
Who,
million
Arnold?
salary, not Arnold, Cooper Flag. It's because of getting that 25 to 35% max 1 year earlier. You're talking about a $50 million, like 30% max by the time he's eligible for it. He's not delaying that by a year. He's just not doing it.
Hey, Ron in the chat. It's not
not.
a tumor.
He's not.
There you go. There's the Arnold. All right, now it's time for a roll call. We're in the either Commando or Predator uniforms over here.
Yes,
so
we
one
are.
of the maybe True Lies. I don't know. Pick
Yes.
one of your. See how many good movies he's in. I didn't have to say the Terminators. I didn't have to say like
He's got his
bangers.
His filmography. I will
Bangers.
I will stand with you on that. I will stand with you on that.
Love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anyway, you know who I love more? All of you who are here with us tonight have been with us for over an hour, man. We're after midnight. We're going crazy on a overtime.
We got to be back here in a couple
Sixers
hours.
tanking loss. I'm going to argue that we should do this from home tomorrow, but that's a story for tomorrow. Thank you to my girl Winona, to Scott Sotan,
What up, Scotty?
to Money Mar, to SB Cole,
Mar.
to Jess with the Purple Heart, to Bootzilla,
Boots.
to Dan Taylor, to T Harris, to Phil Evans.
What up, T?
My
Phil.
computer is really lagging tonight, so bear with me, everyone, as I try to deal with this. Ron, Brian Knight.
What up, Aaron?
My guy, Jay the Jungle. I didn't forget tonight. See?
And a
I
super
remember
chat.
you sometimes. Music Lover 31. I'm not kidding you guys. My
mine does
computer
that
just
too.
crashed.
Yeah, mine does that
I
too.
just hit the Google Chrome. That's free promo, I guess. Error. We got
Because nobody knows who
Chi.
Google is.
We got Vincent.
Small company.
Bree, you can keep
What up,
scrolling a little
Vince?
bit. Cannoli,
Holy
DC
cannoli.
Marley. Who else is in here? I think Val was in here earlier. She might be asleep by
What up,
now.
Peace? We see you, Peace.
John Peace hanging out with us. I'm really sorry, guys. My computer straight up crashed while we were in the middle of doing this, so this is making it very difficult. Matt Webster was in here. Who were all our super chatters?
Matt had a
Bree?
super chat.
Matt was in
did.
there. Scott, Phil, Riaz came in late. Davon,
Skunk, of course.
Riley, my guy Jada Jungle, obviously. Traveling WM is hanging out with us.
Saw Sal in there.
I saw Joaquin from Cherry Hill.
Definitely in there. Loving the
You gotta love
tank
somebody. You
helmets.
better love somebody.
Better love somebody, love somebody, love somebody.
We got Ain't Me hanging out. Prophet One
What up,
also
Prophet?
hanging out. Everybody who's here, if I don't get to you, I didn't get to you. I still love you. It's just, technical difficulties and all that jazz. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And if you hit the thumbs up button, it'll be a bigger thank you than normal to super producer Bree, who is here with us after midnight on it was a Monday. Now it's a Tuesday. We're hanging out. We're having fun. Bree's the GOAT.
Axe Monkey in the chat. What up, Axe?
Axe Monkey. Dang. Where's Adam Butt? I need Adam Butt to have our requisite Toronto
Watching the
visitor
Raptors game right
in
now.
here. Thank you, everybody who was in here. By the way, is that a Bulbasaur in Axe Monkey's avatar? Sure looks like it. Maybe a little Pokemon Stadium action. I don't know. We will be back at 3 p.m. tomorrow to talk about God knows what after back-to-back. But hopefully, we'll see you there. Be there or be square. Until then, good night. Get home safe.
All this was
Happy St.
presented
Patrick's
by
Day, baby.
Bet365. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.